All right, and we're back. Thanks for jumping in with me. Okay. So K2D3, really good for bones. Also helps with magnesium to get a slightly better result. Older women, especially, your bones are a lot weaker than they probably ought to be. So that's something that you're going to have no downside taking that. The other thing is a lot of people really are deficient in vitamin D. So most people are going to benefit from plugging that in. Oh, one thing that I did not note in the first part that I wanted to note is, you know, you go through phases of life where you have like a particularly important time. Those are good times to supplement. For example, like pregnancy. So you do not want to be anemic and pregnant, right? You do not want to have your blood lacking critical structural nutrients while you're trying to nourish another human or another baby. So I would, if I were pregnant or if my wife were pregnant, I would supplement more generously during that time. So almost anyone that's pregnant is going to benefit from the desiccated liver. I worked with a company one time. Our corporate wellness manager, she was a coach, and she got pregnant, and her husband just was making her, like, he got a smoker and was feeding her like tons and tons and tons of red meat, like more than she'd ever eaten in her life. And she got her lab work back, and they were just like, "This is amazing. What have you done? Like, all your numbers look perfect." Like, you know, her blood levels, all that kind of stuff. She was not nutrient deficient at all because she was getting a lot of these nutrients in. So just a note, particularly magnesium, liver, and D3K2. If you're pregnant, that'd be like a cocktail that you could consider. This is not medical advice, just kind of what I would do if I were pregnant. Okay, the number one supplement I do recommend is collagen and whey protein powder. Probably everyone here is keeping up with their protein powder. I've had a lot of my friends be sending me their pictures of the protein powder that they've been buying. We've seen in the group, people are keeping up with that. So I think of this as a whole food supplement, and I see no downside. These have been, protein powders have been studied scientifically, rigorously, time and time again. There's tons of studies on protein powder, and almost every study shows a pretty significant benefit. I've never seen a single study that shows any downside. Supplementing with protein powder is going to aid in retention and your increase of lean mass. And remember, your body is lean mass and fat mass. You need more lean mass with less fat mass. It helps you be more insulin sensitive, which means you have better blood sugar control and less body fat. And then it improves your body composition, which again, more muscle, less fat. So there's been studies where they haven't had people do anything else other than take one protein shake a day, and their abdominal muscles increase, their abdominal fat decreases, and that's the only thing they do. Protein also slightly boosts your metabolism, the rate of your metabolism. So if you feel like you were blessed with one of those slow metabolisms where you have one night where you eat fries and they go straight to your hips, this is one way to maybe slightly blunt that effect. I would say this, here's my general rule. There is no downside. There is just a study released where they had guys drink 400 grams of protein every day. That is outrageous. They had them drink 400 grams of protein every day for a year. Just for anyone keeping up, most people are eating about 60 grams of protein a day max. So 400 grams of protein every day for a year, and they had no negative results. So here, I just had someone join, so I'll go ahead and make sure they can hear this. Okay, so they studied people for a year drinking 400 grams of protein powder every day for a year. There was no downside. There was no negative result. There wasn't a big positive result, but wasn't a negative. So I have people ask me, is 2 scoops of protein powder too much? The answer is no, it's not too much. But what I don't want you to do is learn to get all your protein from powder and say, yeah, like I know how to eat well. I want you to prioritize getting whole food protein in your diet by eating healthy lean meats, eating eggs, beans, stuff like that with some supplemental protein. And so I don't want you getting more than 20% of your protein from powder as a general rule. That will come out to be about a scoop a day. About a scoop a day, and the rest is coming from lean meats. that'll be pretty good. My mom is famous for, I gave her the nutrition advice that I wanted her to increase your protein. And she did a great job increasing your protein by 90 grams per day by drinking 3 of those Fairlife chocolate milks, which are delicious and amazing. I don't, but you can see where that can kind of go wrong. So I want you to prioritize whole foods, protein from whole foods. Don't worry too much about getting too much protein powder, but work on your behaviors. If you're just relying on getting all your protein powder, in 3 years, you're not going to be getting enough protein because you haven't learned how to eat it. So the 2 kinds, I'll go pretty quick with this. The 2 kinds, you got collagen and you got whey. Collagen is actually, they make vital proteins. They scrape the back of the hide from cows. That's where they get the collagen. It's like the proteins in their skin and bones and tendons and ligaments. And so just like I said to Julia earlier about the closer the source is to what you actually want it for. So like you get better absorption from protein from animals than you get it from plants. Your bones are going to be like, they get this collagen from the bones and skin of animals and the hair of animals. And most people notice their hair, nails, skin, their hair and nails grow faster and their tendons are actually stronger. So if I've got a client who's got an injury to their knee or an injury to their shoulder, I make sure they're getting some collagen protein as well. Important building blocks for a healthy frame. Again, we aren't eating that many bones. We aren't eating the skin as much of animals as we used to. And so this is a way to get all those nutrients. Again, you could be eating really healthy and you can still be deficient in collagen protein. So whey, what collagen is to bones, tendons, muscles, hair, and skin, whey is to muscles. So especially when you start strength training, you start lifting weights. I'll give a shout out to Susan. Her audio doesn't work, but I know she's in. She's been lifting weights, which has been great for her. She's feeling a lot better because of it. So way to go, Susan. Congratulations. You want to repair. If you go in the gym and lift a bunch of weights, but you don't repair, you actually won't get stronger. So whey protein will help you build muscle on that. I encourage people to buy any well-reviewed whey isolate they like, but I found this flavor by this company called Extreme Milk Chocolate. It's the best protein powder I've ever had, and I've had a lot. You can make a big smoothie with this. For me, it's just as easy to just mix it in some almond milk or water or something. Water, I do that only if I'm like in a rush, and I just do that strictly for the nutrients, not because I enjoy it. Creatine monohydrate. This is a very common supplement taken among athletes or weightlifters, but I want to encourage you that it's not just for athletes and weightlifters, and I want to make the argument for why you should consider it. First of all, it is the most studied supplement on earth. It's very cheap, it's very easy to study, and there is tons of research on creatine. And it almost always shows a really, really powerful benefit for what it's being studied for. So you recover from exercise better, you perform better during your workouts, you increase the size of your lean mass and your muscles. And it also has shown in some cognitive studies, Julia, this could be an interesting thing for Peyton as well. It can contribute to some healthy weight gain, and also it has a pretty good brain effect. It helps you, like, creatine is the energy source we use when we sprint. So say you open your closet and there's a monster in there and you turn around and run, you're going to be using creatine as that energy source. So it can theoretically help your brain fire faster. And when it's been studied, it's been shown to have that effect sometimes. Here's the only reason why I don't recommend it more. If it weren't for this next part, I would probably have everybody on. It does cause significant fluid fluctuations, and oftentimes it'll cause some fluid retention, which leads to weight gain. It's not fat gain. But if I'm working with a client and we want them to lose, 15 pounds on a diet, it's hard to know when to put that in, because they might gain 8 pounds on the scale when they start, or they might gain 4 pounds, so they might not gain any. But for a lot of people, you are going to have some fluid fluctuations. Again, as long as you know it's not fat, and as long as you're just like cognizant of that, don't worry about it. But it can start to kind of it could just mess with what you think you're doing, and it can be discouraging. So when you get on creatine, you need to increase your water intake, because it's going to take the fluid in your body and shuttle it right to your muscles to help your muscles get strong. So if you've got brain concerns, focus concerns, if you've got a hard time building muscle, I would encourage creatine. If you want to lose a significant amount of weight, anything more than 20, 40 pounds, I might not do it, just because it's probably going to discourage you. And here's the bonus supplement. We talked about K2D3, but vitamin D is protective against COVID. There was one trial that actually got buried, that it showed people that had adequate vitamin D levels recovered from COVID at huge rates. People that did not have vitamin D had horrible outcomes. There's a lot of other variables, but it was worth studying more, but it's not. Vitamin D supports overall immune function. It's also relevant in almost all mood disorders. So anything from like just depression to schizophrenia to sleep disorders, vitamin D is generally correlated with it. So if you are struggling with low energy, with low mood, with some kind of depression, you're consistently getting sick, you should probably take your vitamin D levels. That's another lab that you can get taken very, very easily at your doctor. The best source for vitamin D is, of course, the sun, which is free for most of the year for most people. So, I love to take a walk outside for that reason. And you'll see on my Facebook stories, a lot of times I'll just have my shirt in my hand, which I can do as a guy, as a young guy, that's fine. But if you've got a tank top or something, you can do that as well. The more sun exposure, the more vitamin D you get. So again, note, if you begin to take magnesium, you get outside, you're walking more, you're moving more. Vitamin D is less about how much you're getting, and it's more about the environment you're introducing it into. So if you do not have a healthy body and you're taking 5,000, units of vitamin D every day, it might not make a difference. But if you get outside and you walk, if you lift some weights, maybe you lose a couple of pounds, you take some magnesium, you eat your greens, you're getting a little bit more protein in your diet. In that context, your body will begin to absorb vitamin D better. Your mood will improve, your energy should improve as well. Okay, this is officially the longest training I've done over the course of this challenge. So we divided it into 2 parts. Thank y'all for jumping out and jumping it back in with me. Are there any questions? I'll probably stop the recording in a second, just because I don't want it to be too long. But if there's any questions, it might be helpful for other people watching at home.
Andrew, what about B12?
So grass-fed beef liver is going to have B12. Eating sufficient meat, you're going to get your B12. Like if you're hitting your protein target, mm-hmm. and you're supplementing with this, and you get some time, you'll get your B12 up.
The reason I asked that is for the mind. Yeah. With my mother who has Alzheimer's, mm-hmm. She had an out-of-the-box neurologist at first who said a lot of people think they have memory issues, but it's B12 related. And he said, like, you can do a normal blood test, but the blood test has not changed because there's no money in, doing studies on B12, and said that, it should be about double what they say is the minimal. And he immediately had me give my mother shots once a week of a therapeutic dosage of B12. So I just didn't know if that was the one, because everybody I talked to neurologist wise seems to think you need, quite a bit more than what the standard recommended, amount is.
All right, I'm about to say the second most controversial. No, this will be the first most controversial thing I'll say. I think if you ever go into any specialty, they'll almost always tell you that whatever world they're in, the standard recommendation is either way too low or way too high. So the standard recommendation by World Health Organization, CDC, I can't even remember all those organizations or whatever, but for protein in a day is for women 52 grams. So hey, just eat 52 grams of protein. That is a really poor guideline. And when you look at people that actually work with people to actually build muscle and to feel stronger and to lose fat, they're telling you, well, it actually might be closer to 150 grams. You know, it's 3 times too low. So I don't know this a ton about the specifics of B12. I do know B12 is like critical for just energy all throughout the body. I also do know all those kinds of, like, the brain is just is very fragile. There's all kinds of nutrients that the brain needs. It wouldn't surprise me at all if the recommendation is way too low, and if there be some significant benefit by increasing B12.
Gotcha.
So yeah.
Andrew,
Yeah, I can hear you.
what's the K2 in the D3?
It's so like vitamin K is
Potassium.
yeah, you ever heard of ADEC? It's A, D, E, and K are your fat soluble vitamins. So
Okay.
it's like the thing that you learn in like nutrition 101. So those are all your fat soluble vitamins. The fat soluble vitamins can be stored long term. So vitamin C is water soluble. So that's why you can take a huge IV of vitamin C, and if you get too much, you'll pee it out, basically. You'll get rid of it. But the fat soluble vitamins stay stored in your body. So vitamin K, I don't know a ton about K2. I just know when you pair it with vitamin D3, they help each other absorb. So you got calcium and potassium, which are your main, actually, calcium, potassium, and magnesium are your main nervous system channel. That's the word I'm looking for. Channel molecules. So like your nerves firing rely on potassium, well, sodium too. Gosh, you know, all those electrolytes. So I don't know exactly like the pathway there, but I know it helps the D3 absorption. Fat soluble vitamin helps the D3 absorption.
Okay, that sounds good. Omega-3s.
Yeah.
If we take the good Norwegian cod liver oil,
Yeah.
is that all the fish oil we need? All
Yeah,
the
that should be fine. And I think
okay.
I'll look back at your labs. I'll look back at your Omega labs. I need to actually look at those. I'll look at those for y'all's check-in. Because I'd want to make sure that the last time I looked, those lab results hadn't come in, so I never ended up seeing them. But I'd like to see. Do y'all remember what they were? Was there some improvement there?
I don't remember. We can look it up, I guess.
Okay. I'll make a note about omega-3s. You could take, I probably should have said this earlier, but you could take all the omega-3 fish oils that you want. And if you are eating canola oil, or if you're cooking with corn oil or any of the rice bran oil, any of that kind of stuff, or if you're eating at restaurants, not gonna, I mean, I guess I wouldn't say stop taking the omega-3, but you're getting this much omega-3 and you're getting this much omega-6. So the primary source, I said that in the American diet, omega-6s are very abundant and 3s are not. The primary reason for that is the industrial seed oils. And whether you don't, like, you might say, oh, I've never cooked with canola oil at my home ever. If you're eating at restaurants, Julie, we just talked about the City Silo, they're using.
Yeah.
I don't have a very, y'all probably have noticed this. There's a very common thing in the nutrition industry where like food is bad and there's like a big list of bad foods. If I'm out of the norm, it's that I actually think that list of bad foods is a little bit smaller. I'm not as negative on food. Like people look, you know, you've heard that thing before, like if you can't pronounce the ingredient, you shouldn't eat it. Well, that's crazy. Everything's a chemical. Like if I read you the ingredients in a banana, you know, like it sounds terrible. So I don't think necessarily, like, I don't have a big list of foods that are bad, but those industrial seed oils are bad. Those are one of the things that I would say 100%, if you can 100% eliminate them, do it. My one exception is I use a tiny bit of sesame oil when I do stir fries. Okay, I'll go ahead and stop it there. Y'all can stay on. I got a couple more minutes.